Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are at the Masonic Cemetery in Metropolis, Illinois. I mean, we're just barely in Illinois. If I had a rock that I could throw really far, we would hit Kentucky. But we're here to visit the grave of the infamous Birdman of Alcatraz. Now, he's been played in a few movies and imitated, and he's kind of like almost like a lore, right? Like he's turned into something more than what even he really was. So let me get the ad out of the way and say, if this is your first time here, welcome. I hope you enjoy the video. If you do, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing, doing all those things. And if this isn't your first time, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to get this camera turned around or get to walking. I know he's right back there somewhere. We'll talk about all the stuff he did and kind of put to bed some of I think he was made into more of a, like in the creation of the character, like from Hollywood, he was more of a quiet, calm individual, which you'll find out he was not. So yeah, let's get this thing turned around and let's talk about the Birdman. That's not the rapper. Stroud was born in Seattle, and he was the oldest of the children to an abusive alcoholic father. And he ran away from home at the age of 13. Already setting him up for not a good time, right? So by the time he was 18, he had made his way to Cordova, Alaska, where he met a 36-year-old woman by the name of Kitty O'Brien. I would imagine she may have been Irish with a name like O'Brien. But either way, she was a prostitute and a dance hall entertainer for whom he pimped in Juneau. Like at 18, he was already a pimp. Isn't it? I don't know, it's crazy to me. On February 18th, 1909, while he was away at work, an acquaintance, barman F.K. Charlie Von Dahmer, gotta love these names, allegedly failed to pay O'Brien for her service and beat her, tearing a locket from her neck that contained a picture of her daughter. Upon discovering the incident, Stroud confronted Von Dahmer, and a struggle resulted in the latter's death from a gunshot wound. I'm having to change because my hands are starting to get cold. It's 40 degrees out here. Stroud went to the police and surrendered himself and the gun. According to police reports, though, Stroud kicked Von Dahmer unconscious and then shot him at point-blank range. So, man, right? Okay. So Stroud's mother retained a lawyer, but he was found guilty of manslaughter on August the 23rd of 1909 and was sentenced to 12 years in the federal pen at McNeil Island in Washington in the Puget Sound, which does not sound like a fun place to go, right? As Alaska was then only a U.S. territory, it wasn't even a state without its own judiciary, Stroud's case was handled in the federal system. Known as prisoner number 1853, Stroud was one of the most violent prisoners at McNeil Island, frequently feuding with fellow inmates and staff, and was also prone to many physical ailments. Stroud reportedly stabbed a fellow prisoner who reported him for stealing food from the kitchen. Like, that's next level. Like, I've never been to prison. Don't particularly ever want to go to prison, so I don't understand that system. If you're watching and you've been there, hey, leave a comment and explain if that's normal or not, because I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like man for man or woman for woman, depending on where you're at. So Stroud was assaulted. He also assaulted a hospital orderly who reported him to prison administration for attempting to obtain morphine through threats and intimidation. He also reportedly stabbed another inmate who was involved in the attempt to smuggle the narcotics. Like, if I can't get it, you can't, right? On September 15th, 1912, Stroud was sentenced to an additional 6 months for the attacks and was then transferred from that McNeil Island to the federal pen in Leavenworth, Kansas. Like, you always heard stuff about that place, right? On March 26th, 1916, Stroud was reprimanded by cafeteria guard Andrew F. Turner for a minor rule violation that would have annulled Stroud's visitation privilege to meet his younger brother, whom he had not seen in 8 years. With an 8-inch shiv, Stroud fatally stabbed Turner through the heart. So Stroud was convicted of first-degree murder for the stabbing and sentenced to death by hanging by the judge, a sentence that was overturned by the Court of Appeals. He was convicted in a second trial in 1917, but after receiving a life sentence, the Solicitor General, John W. Davis, voluntarily submitted a confession error because he wanted Stroud to receive the death penalty. Stroud was tried for a third time in 1918, and on June 28th, he was again sentenced to death by hanging. Like, how old school, right? Hang him. So Stroud's mother appealed to then President Woodrow Wilson, and the execution was halted on April 15th, 1920, 8 days before it was to be carried out. President Wilson's Attorney General, Alexander Mitchell Palmer, saw to it that Stroud would spend the rest of his life in solitary confinement. So when I was putting this together, I thought, how much pull did Stroud's mom have to get Woodrow Wilson to commute that sentence? Like, who did she know, right? So while in Leavenworth in 1920, Stroud, this is where the lore starts, right? So we've read all about the other bad things that he's done, and not as kind and as gentle as some of the movies and things have made him be, right? So while in Leavenworth in 1920, Stroud found a nest with 3 injured sparrows in the prison yard, and he raised them to adulthood. Prisoners were sometimes allowed to buy canaries, and Stroud had started to add to his collection. He occupied his time raising and caring for the birds, which he could sell for supplies and to help support his mother. According to Stroud, he used a razor blade and nail for tools and made his first bird cage out of wooden crates. So over the years, he raised nearly 300 canaries in his cells. He also wrote 2 books, The 60,000 Word Disease of Canaries, which was smuggled out of Leavenworth, and later editions, Stroud's Digest on the Disease of Birds, with updated specific information. He made several important contributions to avian pathology, most notably a cure for the hemorrhagic family of diseases. I'm going to put what that is right there because I sure ain't going to try. You know how the redneck from Alabama talks, right? He gained respect and also some level of sympathy in the bird-loving field. Like, who would have thought a multi-time murderer gets sympathy from the bird people, right? So on December 16th, 1942, Stroud was transferred to Alcatraz Federal Pen and became inmate number 594. He reportedly was not informed in advance that he was to leave Leavenworth and his beloved birds, and was just given 10 minutes notice on his departure. His birds and equipment were sent to his brother, as Alcatraz strict policies meant that he was unable to continue his love of birds, right? His avocation is the word I was thinking of. It's hard to remember all this stuff. So he spent 6 years in segregation and another 11 in the hospital wing at the penitentiary. And in 1943, he was assessed by psychiatrist Romney Ritchie, who diagnosed him as a psychopath with an IQ of 112, which is kind of standard today. Like, I think it's like 70 to 120, something like that. Who would have thought a multi-murderer was a psychopath, right? During his 17-year term at Alcatraz, Stroud was allowed to access the prison library and began studying law. Occasionally, he was permitted to play chess with one of the guards. Stroud began petitioning the government that his long prison term amounted to cruel and unusual punishment. In 1959, with his health failing, Stroud was transferred to the Medical Center for Federal Prisoners in Springfield, Missouri. However, his attempts to be released were unsuccessful, and on November 21st, 1963, Robert Stroud died at the Springfield Medical Center at the age of 73, having been incarcerated for the last 54 years of his life, 42 of which were in solitary confinement. And here we go. Robert Stroud. Right there. And look at all the birds. Check that out. It's even got they light up at night, got the bird feeders. Isn't that something? All right, so the Birdman of Alcatraz. What do you think? Put down in the comments, do you think he was deserved to get all that life? Like, I still want to know how, like, the mother, like, knew Wilson. Like, maybe it was the bird community that helped save him. I don't know. I think that was weird that, like, he was, I don't know. It's strange how he got his sentence commuted. Because it's not like they had money to donate or, I don't know. I don't think they were in political power. So I find that to me is the strangest, one of the stranger parts. He goes to turn himself in after killing the first guy, thinking that maybe he can get away with, like self-defense murder, right? It turns out that wasn't the case. And stabbed somebody to death in prison, which, like I said, I don't know how it works in there. And from all the stories you hear, it doesn't sound like it's a great place to be to begin with. Solitary confinement seems a little rough. The other thing, like, I didn't even read in this, like, if you made it this far, like, he was a very, like, known, like, homosexual, which I don't really care either way. But I just chose to leave it out because you know how people are. They get weird when you talk about stuff like that. So they had to watch him anytime he was anywhere. They had to, like, make sure that he wasn't trying to, get up on somebody. But it's just weird that even in his 70s, like, I don't know, I don't know how it works in prison, but even, I guess, a multiple murder person, or murder man, as he was, like, I guess you do have to, it's the sentence, right? So you can't feel bad. I don't know, I'm very conflicted on that. Like, even as an old person, like, I don't see a 71-year-old dude, it's hard for me to believe that he still had that anger in him, even at that age. But hey, the law's the law, right? Shouldn't have done what he did, I guess, is the other side of it. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. It was a bit of a long one, and there was so much more that I left out, like just about his, like in Leavenworth and all that stuff that I didn't even include. It was a lot. Long life, famous prisoner. Like, we can check one of those off the list. I don't think we've been to one of those yet. And what a way to start. We go see the Birdman of Alcatraz. Like, that's fun. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget, we got all the stuff, right? Yeah, cool, man. The Birdman of Alcatraz. So anyway, thanks for watching. You know what? You never know what you're going to find on the back roads. I'll see you guys next time.